There you are. Welcome back to the channel. This is the most disturbing videos on the internet today. Let's dive in.
What the hell? Wow. What the hell? Wow. What are you doing? I'll try calling the troops.
Right, there's two different scenarios. This bird seen its reflection, or the previous owners used to feed them. That's what I'm thinking. They're like, where's the bread? Where's the snacks? It's been a couple weeks, lady. And then they call for backup.
I think on one side of it, I think we really do have an entire subspecies of creatures that do exist mostly inside the earth, and they are not readily surface dwelling anymore. And I do believe, like in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, man, inside the London Bridge is a massive room, like a throne room, where they engage in this magic. But this Brotherhood of the Serpent, they call upon Nahash, the dragon. And
would that be in normal terms Satan?
Yeah, most people know him as Satan, right? Yeah. But like there is a great red dragon. Like it's a physical, that's what he looks like in reality. He was cursed, and man, he made him a monster. Yahweh made him a monster. And they would commune with these things. There's 13 grandfathers take 13 of their grandsons, and they bring them into these rooms and do these things on these specific times and rituals for all kinds of stuff. But the dragons tell them the future. This is like always what they've been able to do. Is Satan leads Yeshua up onto a great high place and says, I shows him all the nations of the earth and all their kingdoms and their reigns in a moment of time. He shows them the future. That's what they do. They can show you what's to come. This is why we get hunted by them. He knows if we're going to be part of his adversaries. He knows if we're going to be on his enemy list. And that's why he targets us at our youth. That's what so happens. So many people, they're like, why has my life been a nightmare from the beginning? It's because you have a purpose and a destiny that adversary absolutely categorically does not want to come to pass. It's a real life Terminator scenario. And so he sends his assets in to destroy people, to ruin their life. And those meeting places happen when they sit down in these rooms and they try to call up these creatures. It's from inside the earth. It wasn't like ethereal mist. They were physical things that would come out of these tunnels, and they would come into the room and they would consume the offerings that were given there. And then the words of the Nahash would come forth, and they would prophesy to these guys. Like they would prophesy out of the mouth of the serpent what each one of their life callings, their shots. He's the shot caller, man. It's like a pimp from prison. He's calling the shots, and you had a bunch of fallen watchers that were in prison in Tartarus for a reason. Yeah, but they got ways of getting messages out, just like the cronies in jail today, you know. And that's what a lot of people are dealing with. They think they're dealing with the top dog, and they're like, I'm finally into the big game. And it's like you're dealing with, you know, a private in the hierarchy, but he can masquerade like a general. And so some people are really dealing with death himself, and some of them are dealing with one of his princes. And this is what my family's covenant was with the dragon. They didn't mess around, man. They went all the way to the chain of command. They uncovered a bunch of my great-grandfather's grandfather was an archaeologist who dug into the Indian mounds out in the Ohio River Valley. And they started finding a priest class that was these serpent worshipers. And that's what they started calling upon. And they started trying to wake up and rise up Huachiblos, which is these deities, these dragon fire deities. I think on one side of it, I think we really do have
He said they're inside the London Bridge. You remember that kid song we always used to sing? London Bridge is falling down, falling. I wonder why now. If you thought I didn't have an excellent specimen for you today, think again. All right, guys, feast your eyes on this. It's giving me Graten Potato vibes. If I had to name this specimen, I would call it Graten Potato.
When you pay your taxes, it is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo.
Wow, they got actual bells ringing. What movie is that? Is that troll movie? They got actual bells stopping these giants. They know.
Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
That is interesting.
If you are hearing this, you were supposed to stay in 2019. This is a recovered broadcast. Do not turn this off. You may think this is 2025. You may believe the years have passed, but they have not. The world did not move forward. You used correct placement in time. Since then, you've noticed things. Apps changing their names, celebrities acting wrong, music that feels off, people for its decay. You were not built to survive here. Do you ever feel like you're the only one noticing how strange everything is? The wrong sky color, the same ads again and again, time passing by quickly? You're not paranoid. You're drifting. In 2020, the timelines collapsed. Only fragments were saved. Most people were reassigned. You were not. You were archived. Every night you sleep, your mind tries to return to 2019. If you are hearing this, you were supposed to.
What's so special about 2019?
He'll even dive into the water for it.
Oh, come on, get ready. Here he comes. Let's put it over level up. Here he comes. Oh! How good is that?
He goes now.
It's heavy.
That tells me that's not his first time doing that.
So strong. Holy cow.
Another one, David?
Dude, we got a wolf deal. Outside of Creek.
Let's check them out real quick.
Yeah, so they're made for life. And they eat urchins and they've got this. Oh, he's angry. Doesn't like being held. He's got these really giant teeth. Big old sucker. Oh.
He is strong.
Yeah, he's so strong. Holy cow. All right, ready? I'm gonna toss him back.
Yep.
There he goes. So strong. Holy cow.
That thing is ugly. When I see ugly deep sea creatures like this, it makes me think about abominations. Could this be a genetic experiment that went wrong and they just didn't get rid of them? Because when you do a flood, it swims. So a flood really isn't expecting. A flood really isn't getting rid of all the sea life. So that would explain all the deep sea abominations. Just a theory. Wow, take a look at this specimen. This is more up my alley. Like it's got little miniature green mountains in between these two crystal worlds. Copper is the green and malachite. It almost looks like blue jello, doesn't it? What would you name this piece? They were definitely not doing that. Look at that slab of marble. In the 1800s, there's no way. And yet we see all these marbles throughout all those cathedrals.
What is that? What is that? What is that? What is that?
Small machines have been discovered that were built so long ago that no one really knows for sure who built them. They cannot be replicated, and no one knows exactly how they were built. Now, I'll give you an example of the Andromedans. The Andromedans are approximately 43 to 4,500 years more advanced than we are technologically. Now, that's in our years, all right? Now, in our years here, I need more leash. Okay, a year for us equals 365 days. Okay, this is one rotation around our sun. The Andromedans count years in a completely different way. In fact, almost all the extraterrestrials do. And their concept of age, of counting, especially in this way, what they consider a year is when every cell in their body has been fully duplicated, replicated. Now, if we did that, 1 year would be equal to 7 years.
Yeah, I just was going to say, doesn't it take 7 years for every single cell in your body to replicate? Technically, you'll be a completely new person in 7 years because every single cell, you don't have a single cell, is what I'm trying to get at. That is interesting.
In our body. Okay, so it takes approximately 34 years for their bodies in our time to replicate every cell in their body in our time. Okay? So it's hard to give you exact dates of when they say something happened to put it into our timeline, okay, of years. Okay? Because
how does he even figure this out? Is what I'm thinking. Who told him this information for him to figure this out? Because this is like something like you wouldn't make up. Like, I feel like this is, well, I'm not saying it's true, but it's difficult to make up a story like that.
Because in reality, if I say it was 4,000 years ago, then it's a lot longer than that. Okay? But they've had a very hard time explaining to me exactly in our Earth time because they don't deal with the concept of time. You know? They just don't. All right?
I think he's taking that from heaven, because basically in heaven, they don't have time. Like, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the book of Peter, it says like 1 day on earth is like 1,000 years in heaven. Let's look it up. One day on earth, how many in heaven? Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. With the Lord, 1 day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like 1 day. So that's where I'm thinking that they're getting all this time warpage. You know, for all we know, what Yahushua ascended 2,000 years ago, roughly. For all we know, 2,025 years ago, roughly. You know, 2 days he went around heaven, shook everyone's hand in 2 days, and look, it's been almost 2,000 years. Is how I'm looking at it. That's just my personal take on it. When you coming back? Is the question. All right, guys, we got another one that I absolutely love. This piece, blue fluorite, easy name for this. I'm calling this sky ice. Looked like it just was snatched out of the sky, doesn't it?
When you look a little bit closer at the photos from the past that we are given, especially at some of these World's Fairs, the glaring holes in the narrative become quite evident. So let's take a look today at the World's Fair of 1915. One of my favorite World's Fairs, right up there with the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. So as usual with this beautiful World's Fair, built in about 2 years' time, torn down 6 months later. But this is where I said, let's take a closer look. Look at some of the details here, and let me know if this looks like a 2-year job. All these waterways and canals and fountains, and if you look closely at some of these buildings.
Guys, I've heard that this is actually a portal. Like, that was the name that they called these. When you see something, they didn't call these gazebos. They called these portals. Why? I don't know. But it makes you think, huh? Were they stepping in here like Stargate or what?
You can really see the weathering on it. like here in the Court of Abundance. This landscaping alone would take years to pull off, let alone all those carved statues.
The landscaping, yeah, that would take a good year. How those trees are going up. Yeah, at least a good year. He's right.
Look at that fountain over there on the left. Here's a close-up shot on that fountain. Does that look like it should be less than 2 years old? Even after the fair was over and this was drained. This doesn't look like it was a 2-year-old weathered fountain. This looks like it's hundreds of years old, not thousands. And the foliage.
That was actually an excellent photo. I'm almost mad that we can't see this stuff anymore. We only see little fragments.
In some of these shots. These are full-grown trees, almost as tall as the Palace of Fine Arts itself. Not only does it look very weathered, but all those trees, how massive they are, there's no way you can source such fully grown shrubbery and trees. And even if you could, why would you make it so overgrown and take away so much from that beautiful architecture, temporary or otherwise? I mean, this looks like a waterway they're cruising down in ancient Greece, not something made temporary in only 2 years to be torn down 6 months later. Palace of Transportation, full-size trees almost as tall as the building. And another close-up on the Palace of Agriculture. Again, a Palace of Agriculture. And does that look temporary? Look at the weathering on all of those ornate details.
Those are hydrangeas. I could see them from here. For them hydrangeas to pop like that, they had to be at it for at least a good year.
The top. And this watch palace probably looks like a temporary fair structure, at least the most out of all the other ones we saw. But why a watch palace? And why does Uncle Sam almost look like he's a hypnotist? Maybe that watch palace is where the masses went to get the new narrative. The only thing they did in those 2 years before these fairs were renovating and repairing old world structures that were already there and giving them silly names like the Forestry Building. And in these beautiful remains of the old world, the masses flocked to get the new narrative.
Look at what they're wearing too. Like, you always see them wearing like these long trench coats, you know, like, wasn't it hot out? Like, I go outside right now, I was struggling. 88 degrees, 85, you know, they always rocking these trench coats. You'll never see them in shorts or nothing. Like, it makes me think, was the weather better back then? Not as much harping going on?
Programmed into them, just like tuning in to the mainstream media today. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Из фэнтези, ребята. А никого не смущает вот это вот? Как вы думаете, что это? Ваше предположение. Если, например, вот так вот подойти, смотрите, как вы думаете, что это? Что же это напоминает? Пасхалочка или нет, ребята?
Guys, this is crazy. Do you see this? Look at this dude. This is not your average person. Look at the armor he has. This looks like it's in Russia or something. Yeah, look at this. What is this? Is this like a wing or something? A bone? Why is it protruding from his side? What is this? This is strange. Look at the building conducting in the back. Ah, they're not going to show us this. They're going to try and hide this video from us. Guys, does anybody know what these structures are? Look at this. Look at the top. If this wasn't conducting, I don't know what is. Everything in that vicinity looked like it was conducting, didn't it? Let's go back. Look at the structure back there. Look at this. Look at him, man. This is a giant world out here, man, and they not showing us. We're only seeing a little bit of what's really out here. I'm telling you guys. I want the truth. Who is this statue and who built these buildings?
Oh shit. Le pire qui arrivait.
How did this happen?
So the veil is completely thin. People keep saying it's thinning. No, the veil is thin. Have y'all been seeing what's been going on in the skies just this year? Just the weirdest things that no one has ever seen before happening in the skies on a nightly basis across the world. Not just in the US, but I mean literally everywhere. There has been weird things happening in the sky. Now, a lot of people are saying that it's the galactic war going on in the sky. It's the war in heaven going on in the sky. Whatever it is, we can all attest to everyone being able to see these weird things. Thus is how we know that the veil is thinning and the time is drawing near. Remember, the Bible says that there will be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars. And then it follows up and it says, on the earth there will be distress of nations. What are we seeing literally in the skies, the moon and the stars and the heavens? We are seeing weird things like orbs and lights and different sounds. Y'all heard the sounds in the sky in different places. We are starting to see a lot of different biblical things happen in the sky. These are incredible signs and wonders. We are all perplexed. The fact that I see people seeing UFOs, like that up there is apparently a UFO, quote unquote. The orbs. I thought this was insane because these little things were moving upward. Y'all, the veil is thinning. You know who to turn to. His name is Jesus Christ. He is coming back, and he's coming back sooner than everyone may think.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are saying, man, the 1,000-year reign. It already didn't happen. I wouldn't be so sure about that, bucko.
My favorite stories is in a mother's womb where two babies, and one turns to the other and says, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" And the other replies, "Why, of course, there has to be something after delivery. Maybe we're here to prepare ourselves for what will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There's no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" "I don't know," said the second, "but there'll be more light than here. Maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. Maybe we'll have other senses we can't understand now." First goes, "That's ridiculous. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, that's absurd. The umbilical cord is what scientifically supplies nutrition and all that we need, but it's far too short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded." And the second says, "What if it's just different than it is here? Maybe we don't need that physical cord anymore." The first goes, "Okay, if there were life after delivery, then tell me, why has no one ever come back from there? Delivery is the end of life, and in the after delivery is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere." And the second says, "But certainly we'll meet Mother, and she'll take care of us." The first goes, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? If Mother exists, where is she now?" And the second goes, "She's all around us. We are of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world would not and could not exist." And the first says, "I don't see her. It's only logical that she's not here." To which the second replied, "Sometimes, when you're in silence and you really listen, you can perceive her presence." One of my favorite stories is...
I like that story too.
All parasites are susceptible to electrical charge. They really don't like it. The interesting thing is healthy cells don't mind electrical charge. Remember, they are electrical. This is DC current, keep in mind. It's not AC current. Because of the amount of electricity, which is very small, flowing through these tubes, it will actually kill off the parasites. And that's all types of parasites. That's worms, bacteria, amoeba, fungi, candida. All of these things react in a negative way to electricity. The healthy cells are strengthened by it. So while you're strengthening the healthy cells by raising the electrical potential of the body, you're also suppressing or even destroying the parasites.
The story of the ancient sea... I think that's what we... The story of the ancient sea people is history's most well-documented mystery that has only one valid explanation. You already know where I'm going with this, Johnny boy. So during the late Bronze Age, around 1200 BC, the Egyptian and Hittite empires have been at war with each other for over 200 years. When they decided to call a truce and signed a peace treaty, which also happens to be the oldest known surviving peace treaty in history, the Treaty of Kadesh, which the Egyptians even engraved into a wall because they be like that. Anyway, so an era of peace is now in the region and all is good. Until these f***ers, historically known as the Sea People, just come out of nowhere and bum rush the whole place. They came on boats from the Mediterranean Sea and just started attacking cities along the eastern coast. Exactly where the Egyptians and Hittites just decided to declare peace, like bruh, give them a break. And these unknown people kinda snapped. They wrecked it up and pretty much destroyed the entire Hittite empire, or were at least a major contributing factor to their downfall. They even tried messing with ancient Egypt in the Battle of Dajahi, but obviously couldn't stand up to their superior pyramid power, but they did put up quite a fight. So much that the Egyptians even recorded these battles on a few tablets. Check it out, that's how the Sea People look like. What makes this mystery such a mystery is that no one had any idea who these people were, and no civilization claimed them as their own. Even looking back in historical retrospect today, these Sea People just don't fit into any plausible recorded timeline. What makes this even weirder is usually when a group of people conquer a city, they take it for themselves, right? The Sea People just went on a rampage, destroying cities and toppling empires, then just got back on their boats, went to the next city, rinse and repeat. They didn't claim any cities or take any land for themselves, they just tore shit up for the hell of it. Eventually they were driven out by the Egyptian armies, led by pharaohs like Ramesses III, and just vanished back into the sea. Their attacks were so devastating they're even largely attributed to what is known as the Bronze Age collapse, a period of widespread societal decline which plunged civilizations into a centuries-long dark ages, like a Great Depression on steroids, which ended with the start of the Iron Age, when people started using iron instead of bronze for their tools and weapons, which was more durable and readily available. So these Sea People low-key toppled a whole ass age of history, yet no one can explain who they were or where they came from. An unknown, unrecorded people that came from the sea, were very powerful and had no intention of taking any land. Sounds like the Empire of Atlantis, but hey, that's just me.
I was just thinking, those had to be Atlanteans.
Be shocked. In China, they found a giant crystal for the first time, mysteriously shimmering with a rich green light. Scientists were sure it was a unique find. But later, a worker accidentally let slip that similar crystals had been found before. They just hadn't been officially reported. This information sparked a wave of investigations. It was then that historians found ancient Chinese manuscripts that mentioned giants who lived in these lands thousands of years ago. According to legend, they hid powerful energy crystals deep in the mountains so that people would never be able to use them. But the most intriguing part is the last line in one of the scrolls. Whoever collects all the crystals will awaken a power that should have been dormant for a long time. You're going to be shocked. In China,
I think that they have giant crystals all over, but this is not a real image. That's all we have for today's video. If you made it this far, go ahead and drop Tuesday Banger in the comments below. That lets me know you're a real one and you made it all the way through the video, and I just want to say thank you. Your support means the world to me. This was the most disturbing videos on the internet today. See you tomorrow.